The Chicago Bulls starting five has been easy to figure out. I think most people understand that the starting five is going to be Josh Giddey, Norman Powell, Buzelis, Caleb Wilson, and Nic Claxton, right? That group is, of course, going to get the most attention. That group is going to define a lot of what the Chicago Bulls ceiling and what this team could possibly be this season, and has more balance on paper. And that's really good. And on paper, the Chicago Bulls have a lot of bench options as well. When you look at it, you got Tre Jones, Jalen Smith, Okoro, Leonard Miller, Dailyn Swain, Patrick Williams, Zach Collins, Noa Essengue, all those guys, Rob Dillingham, right? And it looks deep. But the question I want to talk about today is that, is the Bulls bench actually deep, or do we just have a collection of names? We'll talk about that, how Tiago Splitter can implore this bench. We'll talk about all that plus more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. And so the question I want to have here is that the Chicago Bulls undoubtedly have options on the bench. I've gone so far as to say and call it Tiago's toolbox, saying that Tiago can go in it, pull out what he needs in a specific situation, and that could lead the rotation not being as consistent for some players. But I also want to say this, while the Bulls have options, it doesn't mean that the Bulls bench is actually going to be good, right? And that's where we're going to start at, because there are some real questions with the bench. And in a lot of ways, the Bulls bench may determine just how good this team is overall, right? And because you have several playable players or several players that you can look at and say this skill set, you're not going to play 14 guys, right? Typically, NBA benches, 9 to 10 guys is what you're looking at in that one, right? Then also rotations shrink when the games matter more. And we don't know if the Bulls are going to be playing in those mattered more games, but that's a thing that comes into that as well. And so the question that we're going to talk about today is that undoubtedly the Bulls have names on the bench. They have bodies on the bench. It's just every NBA team does. You're technically going to have, 15 spots on your roster. The Bulls have 14 filled right now. But how Chicago is going to need to find 9 guys that can consistently bring something for this team, with a 10th guy that maybe can float in and out of there, right? And so I want to go bench by bench, member of the bench, and talk about what they could bring to this team. And I think the guy, depending on how you look at it, there are 2 guys that are going to fit that 6-man role probably the most for the Chicago Bulls. And that's Tre Jones or Jalen Smith, right? Those are the guys that you're looking at as probably being the most consistent, and you know exactly what they're going to bring. You know what Nic Collins is going to bring too, but you don't know Zach Collins, what he's going to bring too, but you know if he's going to be on the bench or on the court healthy enough, right? But I think when you look at it, Tre Jones may be the most important bench member for the Chicago Bulls because he brings stability. Because while he's not a name that's flashy, he's one of the most solid two-way players that we have on that bench that we know for sure because he's done it for his career. I know people are going to say Leonard Miller, but we'll get into Leonard Miller here in a second, right? He's going to be the organizer coming off this bench. He's going to be that. And that's not the job of a star, right? But he's going to be able to keep up that playmaking ability that Josh Giddey brings. He is a solid rebounder per his position and size for sure, too, as well. But he's also one of the most consistent scorers. Now, he does not shoot the three consistently, and there's some times where he leaves wide open threes. But I do think that Tre Jones' job is going to be very streamlined and straightforward. He's going to be what organizes the bench unit and the offense overall when he's in the game. And that's it. And on times where he does play with Josh Giddey, you're more likely going to, he's still going to be running a lot of the offense. And we've seen that last season as well. How Tiago uses that is maybe a little bit different, right? He's going to have to get guys like Jalen Smith involved, right? He's going to have to organize guys, whether it's Nic Claxton still in the game or even when he's still in the game with other rookies like Caleb Wilson or Dailyn Swain, right? The thing in regards to that one, the question that you have there for Tre Jones is that can he organize the offense without slowing down the offense? Because we do plan to still be a transition team, and that's there. Tre Jones may not be somebody that necessarily raises your ceiling, but he is someone that stops the floor from falling out when he's on the court because of his ability and how he runs it as a point guard, and that's going to be good. But then you run into the other 6-man option for the Bulls here, and that's Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith has a skill set right now that is well too important for the Chicago Bulls to ignore and too important, just frankly, not to play him. His ability to shoot the three, his rim protection ability, his ability in the pick and roll, his ability in the short roll, all those type of things, right? Like Smith does something that we don't have a lot of on this team on paper, and that's spacing, right? His ability to do that. His shooting is going to change a lot of how we're guarded on the floor and thus how we run our offense, especially in the half court, right? If Caleb Wilson and Nic Claxton, for example, if they do compress the paint a little bit, Jalen Smith is going to be somebody who can open that up when he's out there with either one of those guys, and he can play with either one of those guys. Jalen Smith's ability to play with Caleb, to play with Buzelis, to play with Leonard Miller, to play with Nic Claxton, all those type of things are going to be really good there for him, and that's why he is such an important player on this team, right? And this isn't a guy that's just the backup 4, the backup 5. He's going to back up both those positions, and that's what makes him most dangerous because he can play with all of those guys. We saw it. The chemistry with him and Modest Buzelis, with him at the 4, Modest at the 3 last season was really, really good, right? I'm excited to see what that lineup could look like in minutes 2, but also him and Caleb Wilson, where you can slide Caleb Wilson to the 3 or play Jalen Smith at the 5 and leave Caleb Wilson at the 4. Those are going to be really good things, right? Jalen is undoubtedly, while he's here, and, we'll see if he ends up sticking around, if teams make an offer the Bulls can't, refuse, or if Leonard Miller makes him more expendable. But, he is undoubtedly going to be one of the Bulls' most important 6 players that they have on the court. That's just it. Like, he's going to be one of those guys. And so Jalen isn't just about depth. He's about, he may be the bench piece that makes everybody else's game easier to play their more natural fit because of the things that he does, and he does well consistently. And then so you're looking at Tre and Jalen. Those are the guys that I think they do the most things. They're going to probably bring the most consistency, and you're going to probably know who they are. And then after that, there's a bunch of wild cards on this team. Namely, like I said, Leonard Miller, right? Leonard Miller's energy, his two-way play that he showed last year at the end of the season, if he proves that that can be something and a weapon for this Bulls team this season, it's going to be there. The late season opportunity that he stepped into, it does matter. I don't care that it was March basketball. It does matter. Now, it also is up to him to show that he can do that consistently. It's up to him to show that he can be that at the start of the season, because Leonard Miller's role isn't going to be about a design number of touches for somebody, right? It's going to be about he's going to have to run. He's going to have to crash the glass. He's going to have to switch. He's going to have to rebound. He's going to have to bring that consistent energy. And when he does that and he brings that activity along with the two-way play, that's going to be there, right? When you look at a group, a bench group with like him, Leonard Miller, and then Caleb Wilson is out there, and Tre Jones, and maybe Jalen Smith out there, like that's a long, active, frustrating team that can annoy some other teams as well. And that's where you serve as an advantage in that. So Leonard Miller is a guy that I'm really looking to see how he earns that role. Now, I'm talking about even before, the regular season starts. If Tiago Splitter looks at Leonard Miller and the play that he brings in training camp, the way that he ups the ceiling in training camp, that's great. And the part about Leonard Miller that's special is that he doesn't need plays to be called for him to impact the game. But he is shooting the ball consistently. His ability to roll to the bucket, all those type of things, that's going to be a guy that you can also call plays for. A 20-minute play per game to Leonard Miller would make other teams really uncomfortable if he's playing consistently in that, because, again, two-way play and the importance of two-way play. And then you get to the other guy that could be a specialist on this team, and that's Isaac Okoro. I get it. A lot of Bulls fans are down on Isaac Okoro. I'm down on Isaac Okoro. If the Bulls were to trade Isaac Okoro today for Ben Mathurin in that rumor trade, no harm, no foul, I'm not mad at it. The offensive limitations of Isaac Okoro are real, right? But his role could be simplified. Guard the other team's better perimeter player. Now, last season, that was supposed to be his role, but because of how things worked out, there were times he was guarding forwards, there were times he was guarding threes. I think now when you look at our forward rotation now, Isaac Okoro can benefit from just guarding guards and guarding twos, right? When you look at his best defensive season, he's only had 1+, for somebody that's known as a defensive specialist, only had 1+ defensive season in the entirety of his career. That was his last year in Cleveland. And what happened there? He didn't have to guard a lot of forwards. He was guarding guards. He was guarding ones and twos primarily. Now, he was still switching on to some threes. Like, that's going to happen, right? But you have that. And if Tiago Splitter, and I say if because, again, I don't know, views Isaac Okoro as somebody that he can use as that point of attack defender and can switch on the wing sometimes, then he can have a role here, right? It may not be an elite role. It may not be a 20, 25 per minute a night role, but it could be something if he can do that. We don't need as much offense from him as we even needed last season. keep slashing to the bucket. That's where I do think Isaac Okoro is the most dangerous offensively, is that when he's cutting to the bucket. And I do think in a lot of ways, other than Modest, maybe he was our most consistent cut man last season. But if you get that, I think that can be good. He can be used in a useful fashion. I could see that happening. But again, the offensive limitations that he's going to bring are real. Then you get to the two young guys that you really don't know what they're going to be. That's Rob Dillingham and Dailyn Swain. Starting with Rob Dillingham, this is somebody that, like, his reputation is somebody can go out there and get you a bucket, right? That's not really what he's been in the NBA level, though. He's never been somebody that can score consistently. And that's why I like the Rob Dillingham truthers, as I call them. It's like they're like, oh, he can be our scorer off the bench. It's like, he could be. He hasn't shown an ability to do that consistently because of the lack of size and things like that. And I know people are like, but Jalen Brunson has shown, like, there's a stark difference there. Like, Jalen Brunson is also a really good organizer of the offense. Rob Dillingham has not shown a willingness to do that consistently yet. But that's where I want to see Rob Dillingham grow at. And I've said this a lot, is as a playmaker. If he's going to have a role on it, I think that his passing last year, even despite the number of turnovers, which of course you want that to go down, that's what really surprised me about Rob Dillingham last season, right? So, of course, you have the ability. He also has the ability to be a scorer on the team. We have no scorer off the bench, straight up scorer. So there's a question if he can do that. Can Rob Dillingham be a microwave scorer off the bench in the type of, like, I know people have brought in like Nate Robinson and stuff like that. Like, I haven't seen that ability from him. I don't think he is that type of scorer, but hey, I'm not going to count him out. Like, maybe you find, like, the thing with it is these next set of players that we talk about, really anybody other than Tre and Jalen, I don't think are just going to be handed minutes. They're going to have to earn minutes, right? And so if he does earn that, whether it be in training camp, in practice, whatever it is, so be it. Great, right? If Rob Dillingham does hit, right, I don't have the biggest hope for it, but if he does hit, especially as a scorer, he could change the complexity of the bench. Yeah, we'll be small, but he can change that, because if you can get buckets with control, we've seen it. There's a role for you on teams to be able to do that. And we'll see if Rob Dillingham could do that. And Dailyn Swain is the guy that I really look at and say, if Swain gets to the potential, and it may not be this year, we'll see what happens, right? He can make the rotation make more sense. Because when you look at Dailyn Swain, how he led his team in points, assists, and rebounds, if you have somebody like that on your bench that can get that done, that can rebound, that can pass, that can score, that can isolate, that can fit that mold of the guy that comes off the bench and gets you a bucket, that's great. But he's competing with a plethora of players at every position. He's probably going to play the two, or he's going to play some of the three, one of the two of those. And you're looking at everyone that we just mentioned, like Norman Powell's going to be the starter there. Isaac Okoro is probably going to try to fight to be ahead of him in that rotation. He may very well be, because he may be more consistent. Then, of course, at the forward position, you're battling with the starters of Caleb Wilson, Modest Buzelis, Leonard Miller, Jalen Smith, right? All those type of guys to get that. Now, if Dailyn does prove to be a defender first, right? Defender, rebounder. That's what I'm looking at Dailyn Swain to make an impact first, if he can do that. Then at that point, you can add on to that. Do you make quick decisions with the ball? Can you hit your open shots? Can you then, as you start building that confidence in that, can you then isolate those type of things? Dailyn Swain said that the player that we got in Summer League was not him. He was in his own head. He didn't play up to his standards. He didn't play the way that he wants to play. If that's true and he gets more back to those things that he's done, then great. If Dailyn Swain, and it's so many ifs there, that's why it's like we can't. Like, but if Dailyn Swain is ready early, then the Bulls don't really have a depth issue anymore. They don't, because their bench rotation makes a lot more sense with that. Even if you're just talking about Tre, Jalen, Leonard, Dailyn, right? That's a 9-man rotation. You can use a 10th guy between Zach Collins, Isaac Okoro, other guys as they fit in, but we'll see, right? And so, we'll see what happens with Dailyn. I'm not somebody who's going to act like his NBA career is over with, like some Bulls fans are doing because of a weak summer league, but he is going to have to go out there and prove it. He's going to have to dig in and prove that he can do something and do it consistently and perform on an NBA court. Can he? We'll see, right? I'm not going to count him out, but we'll see. Then you have the Patrick Williams part of it. Patrick Williams, who, when you look at his NBA career, has gone from a starter as a rookie to now the 11th, 10th, 12th man on a bench, right? And with P. Will, it just comes down to this. And I know some people disagree. No, the Bulls should not be showcasing him to try to up his value. Like, they shouldn't be doing that. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second here. They shouldn't be doing that. If he earns a role, then he earns a role. Same way I don't want the Bulls to play him just because of his contract. If he earns a role and plays well in whatever restricted role that he does have, Bulls fans shouldn't complain about it if he's earning it and playing to the way that Tiago wants him to play. But this is one of the questions, right? Because like a Patrick Williams that gets back to being a near 40% three-point shooter, a solid defensive player, all those type of things, it makes a big difference for this Bulls team. It can make a big difference for this team. But he's not going to have a guaranteed role. He's just not going to have one on this team anymore. Like, even if you look at it and say, like, the contract is the contract, like, that's not going to change in regards to this one. But I'm not going to write him off completely yet either because, hey, maybe the change of scenery, maybe a change of style, maybe him getting back healthy, dealing with that foot injury, maybe all these things puts him in a better spot. Patrick Williams needs to come in, rebound, defend, run, hit open threes, take the wide open threes. Very simple. If you do that, we'll see. But you have to earn it, right? And that's it. Patrick Williams' contract can't be the reason that he plays. And this ain't the front office that drafted him, so their hope that he's going to turn into the next Kawhi definitely ain't going to be a reason why he plays. He's going to have to earn everything that he gets this season, maybe more than he's ever had to do in his NBA career. Let's see if he can do it. Then you have Zach Collins. No one mentioned him towards the end here, but I can see him playing above a lot of these guys. I know me and my brother Savon kind of disagree on that. He's like, I don't see them prioritizing Zach Collins over Dailyn Swain. I don't see them prioritizing anything over anybody that plays better. I think that that's what they're going to do. And I think that Collins may not have a night out role in the 9-man group, but he may, because when Zach Collins is on the court, he's a really good a really solid backup two-way center, right? The physicality that he brings matters. The ability to stretch the floor a little bit matters, right? And there's going to be nights where you need just a big, strong body. Say what you will. Jalen Smith, a solid rim protector, an okay defender, more off ball than on ball. But again, him and Nic Claxton kind of suffer from the same thing. They're both slight. They don't really weigh a lot, right? So you look at Zach Collins as the guy that can bring that big body, and he can bring that consistently for this team. And so if you try to play a more physical style, which Tiago Splitter does like to do, Zach Collins can do that. He brings size, he brings ability to set screens, he brings rebounding, and he brings veteran toughness. The biggest question for him is, can you stay healthy enough for that to matter for the Chicago Bulls each and every night? That's the question for him. And it's a warranted question because he hasn't done it in his 2 years here yet. So we'll see what happens in that one for him, but we'll see. Then Noa Essengue, right? Somebody that I really struggle on because I can see where Noa Essenge's role could be. Defending, running, rebounding, blocking shots, lobs, right? That's where it could be. He's 19. And I can make a case for Noah should be developed, not buried at the end of the bench. You can make a case for that, right? With that. Chicago has 9 or 10 guys playable. If they view that and they're ahead of him, okay, then he's going to be in the Windy City. He's going to be Windy City Bulls. That's fine, right? But I think if he does go to Windy City, what is his role going to be? Let him play 30 minutes a night. Let him handle, let him shoot, let him defend, let a lot of things go through him because this is it. If you can't make the roster this time next year, we got to start having some tough decisions, and some people are ready to have those tough decisions anyway, right? Here's the thing for Noa Essengue. If you're going to be able to actually develop him, then great. If you're not going to be able to develop him, then put him in the Windy City, let him get those tons of minutes to develop his skills, build the confidence, those type of things. We can't be having this conversation again next year on if Noa Essengue is an NBA player. He got to show something. And so we'll see if he can end up doing that for Noa Essengue. So when you look at it, I think this. When you look at our opening night and the players that I would be willing to better in the opening night rotation, the starting 5 is the starting 5. We talked about that. But I do think Jalen Smith, Tre Jones, probably the first 2 players off the bench. Leonard Miller, I'd be willing to give him, say that he's going to definitely be in there. That's 8 of your 9 right there. So then you have Isaac Okoro, Rob Dillingham, Dailyn Swain, Patrick Williams, and possibly Noa Essengue battling over that ninth man spot. And the 10th spot is going to be the guy that, depending on the matchup that you need to play or foul trouble or stuff like that. We'll see what's going to happen here. There's no hockey substitutions in basketball, right? That's not what you're going to have. You're going to have to stagger part of your core with your bench, which is good. Who you stagger, I think, also depends on who you trust on that bench, and we'll see where they go into that one. Here are the 5 questions that I think you have to look at over the course of this season that are going to determine if the Bulls bench is good, right? Who scores when Norman Powell and Miles Buzelis are off the court, off that bench unit? I know people are going to say Josh Giddey, talking about off that bench unit. Can Jalen Smith repeat the impact that he made last year with the shooting, all that type of stuff? Leonard Miller, can he make the late game run that he had last year a full season run? And then can Tiago Splitter balance the development with also merit of who needs to play in that one? And then 5, what happens if Bryson Graham starts moving some of the veterans. What happens in regards to that one is going to be a big thing. And I think how the bench performs could flip the projection of how the Chicago Bulls go, and we'll see what happens there. Last topic of the day before we get out of here, Patrick Williams. Should the Bulls dump Patrick Williams? This is something I said I alluded to earlier. This is what a lot of people do. Like, this got started by Evan Sideri. Take what you will from Evan Sideri because, again, sometimes he be throwing shit uphill is all I can say with that one. But he mentioned that there was some chatter internally for the Chicago Bulls to move Patrick Williams and even attach draft capital to get that done. And here's the thing. No, you're not clearing space for a title move anytime soon. If the cost is multiple seconds, my thought is why? Not to say that seconds are the most valuable thing, but those seconds could be thrown in. As we've seen, they've gotten deals done. Even though Bryson Graham didn't get them done, they've gotten deals done, right? So I think that, at this point with Patrick Williams is that you let Tiago Splitter coach him, you let Jordan Brink work with him, and you see what happens. You let the guy try to get a role. But, at the end of the day, he's going to be competing with Leonard Miller. He's probably going to be competing with Dailyn Swain as well. And if he loses that rotation battle, he loses. No harm, no foul, but you're not losing assets. And I saw some stuff in the comments section the other day where they're like, oh, I bet Patrick Williams is such a terrible teammate that he brings down the morale of that locker room. For what it's worth, say what you will about Patrick Williams on the court, but there's been nothing that's been said about Patrick Williams being a bad teammate. We got to stop trying to create narratives to give our own biased opinions more breadth. And that's the thing that I think some people try to do in it. No, Patrick Williams is not a bad teammate. Patrick Williams doesn't bring down the morale of the locker room. It is what it is there. Like, I think everybody kind of looks at P. Will like, hey, it is what it is, right? You should not, but Bryson Graham should not be put in a situation where he has to burn future assets to erase Acme's mistake. And that's what some Bulls fans want to do. At the end of the day, let him sit on the end of the bench. It wouldn't be the biggest contract that's on the end of the bench not getting minutes on an NBA team. It's just not that, right? As it stands right now, because the Bulls have the financial flexibility, you do not have to attach assets to Patrick Williams to come off of his deal because you don't need that to get the flexibility. Now, in 1-2 years, maybe you are at that point. Maybe, right? Especially with Modest's extension, stuff like that. Maybe that happens between now and then. But as it stands right now, no, you're not in that spot. And I think that's the thing that you have to get to. Patrick Williams isn't even a gamble, I wouldn't say. If he performs, great. If he improves, cool. If not, you sit his ass on the end of the bench and there's done. Like, you're removed from the expectations of a 4th overall pick. Nobody's looking at you to be that anymore, right? And if you don't fit, you just don't fit. Yeah, we could trade you later down the road, maybe as a sweetener or whatever else comes in, but it's not so egregious right now that you have to be attaching assets, picks, whatever. And I highly doubt teams are going to be willing to take a couple of second-round picks for 3 years left of a non-useful NBA player. It'd be different if it was expiring maybe then, right? But now, no, it's probably not going to happen. So that's where I stand with the Patrick Williams thing. I know people disagree. They have difference of opinions with it, and that's fine. But that's my opinion on it. And so I think you got to go into this one looking at your bench, looking at your rotation, and just figuring it the hell out. And hopefully the Bulls can do that. Hopefully, hopefully that can happen. But let me know what you guys think on that part down below. What do you think about the bench rotation for the Chicago Bulls? How solid do you think this bench is going to be for the Bulls? And are you concerned about it? Do you think that we have just a collection of names, or do you think we're going to develop some real depth with this bench here for the Chicago Bulls? Let me know your thoughts and feelings on that down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or a live stream. You can follow us at Bull Central Pod on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and a voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.